There is an ancient and well-kept secret to happiness which the great ones have known for centuries. They rarely talk about it, but they use it all the time, and it is fundamental to good mental health. This secret is called the fine art of not being offended. In order to truly be a master of this art, one must be able to see that every statement, action and reaction of another human being is the sum result of their total life experience to date. In other words, the majority of people in our world say and do what they do from their own set of fears, conclusions, defenses and attempts to survive. Most of it, even when aimed directly at us, has nothing to do with us. Usually, it has more to do with all the other times, and in particular the first few times, that this person experienced a similar situation, usually when they were young. Yes, this is psychodynamic. But let's face it, we live in a world where psychodynamics are what make the world go around. An individual who wishes to live successfully in the world as a spiritual person really needs to understand that psychology is as spiritual as prayer. In fact, the word psychology literally means the study of the soul. All of that said, almost nothing is personal. Even with our closest loved ones, our beloved partners, our children and our friends. We are all swimming in the projections and filters of each other's life experiences, and often we are just the stand-ins, the chess pieces of life to which our loved ones have their own built-in reactions. This is not to dehumanize life or take away the intimacy from our relationships, but mainly for us to know that almost every time we get offended, we are actually just in a misunderstanding. A true embodiment of this idea actually allows for more intimacy and less suffering throughout all of our relationships. When we know that we are just the one who happens to be standing in the right place at the right psychodynamic time for someone to say or do what they are doing, we don't have to take life personally. If it weren't us, it would likely be someone else. This frees us to be a little more detached from the reactions of people around us. How often do we react to a statement of another by being offended rather than seeing that the other might actually be hurting? In fact, every time we get offended, it is actually an opportunity to extend kindness to one who may be suffering, even if they themselves do not appear that way on the surface. All anger, all acting out, all harshness, all criticism, is in truth a form of suffering. When we provide no Velcro for it to stick, something changes in the world. We do not even have to say a thing. In fact, it is usually better not to say a thing. People who are suffering on the inside, but not showing it on the outside, are usually not keen on someone pointing out to them that they are suffering. We do not have to be our loved one's therapist. We need only understand the situation and move on in the least. We ourselves experience less SR to make the world a better place. People are too quick to adopt the structure that somebody else created to ease life's uncertainty. But it's not entirely your fault. You didn't know any better as a child. You had to survive. You had to learn from your parents who probably had a rigid and narrow worldview. You had to go to school. You didn't know how to filter the information that formed the web of beliefs in your mind. The only potential you were aware of is the one that everyone else did. Get the job. Get the house. Get the spouse. Pay the bills. Stay on autopilot and pray that one day you can retire and finally be happy. This is the safe and secure route that shaped the routine of habits you have right now. The solution to a boring, repetitive, and robotic life is to change the direction of your life. You need a routine. And if you think you don't, you may not realize that you already have one, even if your routine is not having a routine or going with the flow. Routines are the programs your mind operates on to achieve a specific goal. The habits that form your current routine are creating your future in real time. So if you want to stop building the dreams of others and start building your own, you need to launch into the unknown. Start with a vision for your future. Get clear on what you want out of life. If you don't know what that is, get clear on what you don't want out of life. It's much easier to know what you don't want through reflection, observation, and experience. From there, a rough image starts to form of what you do want. Start with what you know and refine it with experience as you discover new potentials for your life. Then, reverse engineer that vision into clear goals. Understand that goals are for clarity and direction. Their sole purpose is to help you make better decisions. Don't become a slave to them. Now, experiment with new routines. Write them out. Try deep work blocks, long walks, exercise, or extended periods of spontaneity and rest. Yes, those fall within a routine. Then, do it, and when you notice problems, improve the routine, let your goals evolve, and repeat the process. That's all there is to it. You're a smart person. Your greatest enemy will always be your own mind. You might be really good at thinking of new ideas, but this comes with the downside of being really good at also thinking of excuses. Your mind's job is to keep you alive, so it doesn't like when you push beyond your comfort zone or routines. Your mind will find reasons to convince you not to take risks, to continue to think within a box, because change comes with the risk of pain and failure. Your mind is designed to do everything in order to avoid those things. When it comes to applying for that new job, approaching a pretty girl, or starting a new company, there will be a sense of anxiety and fear. Your mind will either run from these emotions or it will overcome them. This moment is where the rich get richer and the poor remain poor. Your mind is either going to fight or go into flight when you are faced with making big life decisions. You will start to think of the most elaborate and rational reasons as to why you don't need to make more money, why you don't need to approach that girl, why there's so much risk in starting a business. You already have a good job. Your mind becomes like a salesman pitching to you all the reasons why you shouldn't take the risk. But this is the devil talking. The word faith means to have loyalty to your trust in God and yourself. Faith is basically blind confidence, trust and love in yourself. You're willing to bet the house on yourself and you trust God to assist you. To turn your head at a risk in life is to turn your head at yourself and God. The risk isn't too risky, you just don't trust in the Most High or yourself. Smart people aren't able to turn their minds off and say, fuck it. You could say courage supersedes intelligence for this reason. The courageous man will leap into the unknown while the intellectual will try to predict the outcome or create a plan to better his odds. This can be useful, but at the end of the day life is full of uncertainty. Prediction and a strategy can only get you so far. Think of war or a sports game, they have strategies, but eventually the universe's plans take over and you're forced to think on your feet. Your intelligence will be useful but only after you jump. Like and follow for more. Here's how it happens. At first, they'll seem to admire everything about you. You'll feel a deep, soulful connection. It's intoxicating, like you've met the person who truly sees you. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, they'll rage over something small. Something so insignificant you'll feel shocked, confused, and even question yourself, what just happened? Because of your connection, you'll want to fix it. You'll try to talk it out, resolve things, and get back to good ground. But here's the truth, they don't want to understand or resolve anything. They want control. If they're jealous, you'll make small adjustments at first: what you wear, who you talk to, maybe even how you interact in business relationships to make them more comfortable. But over time, those small adjustments grow. You'll find yourself cutting off meaningful relationships, second-guessing how you dress, and isolating yourself. Why? Because their insecurity, jealousy, and need for control demands it. The rages will keep coming. At first, they'll apologize and return to the glib and superficial charm, the tendency to be smooth, engaging, charming, slick, and verbally facile. Sociopathic charm is not in the least shy, self-conscious, or afraid to say anything. A sociopath never gets tongue-tied. They have freed themselves from the social conventions about taking turns in talking, for example. Grandiose self-worth. A grossly inflated view of one's abilities and self-worth, self-assured, opinionated. Cocky, a braggart. Sociopaths are arrogant people who believe they are superior human beings. Need for stimulation or proneness to boredom, an excessive need for novel, thrilling, and exciting stimulation, taking chances and doing things that are risky. Sociopaths often have low self-discipline in carrying tasks through to completion because they get bored easily. They fail to work at the same job for any length of time, or maintain committed relationships, engaging in an unending series of casual, impersonal, and trivial sexual relationships. Many short-term marital relationships, a lack of commitment to a long-term relationship reflected in inconsistent, undependable, and unreliable commitments in life, including marital. Promiscuous sexual behavior, a variety of brief, superficial relations, numerous affairs, and an indiscriminate selection of sexual partners, the maintenance of several relationships at the same time. A history of attempts to sexually coerce others into sexual activity, or taking great pride at discussing sexual exploits or conquests. Pathological lying can be moderate or high. In moderate form, they will be shrewd, crafty, cunning, sly, and clever. In extreme form, they will be deceptive, deceitful, underhanded, unscrupulous, manipulative, and dishonest. Conning and manipulativeness, the use of deceit and deception to cheat, con, or defraud others for personal gain, as reflected in a lack of concern for the feelings and suffering of one's victims. The feelings of other people are of no concern to sociopath. Sociopaths view people as little more than objects to be used for their own gratification. The weak and the vulnerable whom they mock, rather than pity, are favorite targets. If they do maintain ties with their spouses or children, it is only because they see their family members as possessions, much like their stereos or automobiles. Lack of remorse or guilt, a lack of feelings or concern for the losses, pain, and suffering of victims, a tendency to be unconcerned, dispassionate, cold-hearted, and unempathic. This item is usually demonstrated by a disdain for one's victims. Shallow affect, emotional poverty, or a limited range or depth of feelings, interpersonal coldness in spite of signs of open gregariousness. Poor behavioral controls, expressions of irritability, annoyance, impatience, threats, aggression, and verbal abuse, inadequate control of anger and temper, acting hastily. Impulsivity, the occurrence of behaviors that are unpremeditated and lack reflection or planning, inability to resist temptation, frustrations, and urges, a lack of deliberation without considering the consequences, foolhardy, rash, unpredictable, erratic, and reckless. Irresponsibility, repeated failure to fulfill or honor obligations and commitments, such as not paying bills, defaulting on loans, performing sloppy work, being absent or late to work, failing to honor contractual agreements. Failure to accept responsibility for one's actions, reflected in MISSYOUR, antagonistic manipulation, denial of responsibility. Denial. Dear me, I see you. I see the quiet strength it took to walk alone when your heart longed for someone to lean on. I see the nights you stayed soft, even when life asked you to be hard. I see the way you kept choosing hope, not because it was easy, but because it was true to who you are. You could have settled. You could have silenced your needs. But instead, you chose to grow to become the kind of woman who knows her worth, holds her vision, and lives with soul. You've built more than savings. You've built self-respect. You've created more than dreams, you've created space for a real, deep, lasting love. So when he arrives, your partner, your friend, your home, don't be surprised. Don't wonder if you deserve him. You called him in with every act of self-love. You made room for him with every boundary you honored. You prepared for him with every quiet act of courage. I'm proud of you. I'm with you. I love you, always. Immoral morality. Humans thrive in conditomes that morality condemns. The peace and prosperity of one generation stand on the injustices of earlier generations. The delicate sensibilities of liberal societies are fruits of war and empire. The same is true of individuals. Gentleness flourishes in sheltered lives, an instinctive trust in others is fairly strong in people who have struggled against the odds. Odds. The qualities we say we value above all others cannot withstand ordinary life. Happily, we do not value them as much as we say we do. Much that we admire comes from things we judge to be evil or wrong. This is true of morality itself. Machiavelli's The Prince has long been condemned for preaching immorality. It teaches that anyone who tries to be honorable in the struggle for power will surely come to grief. Winning and keep ing power requires virtue, boldness, and a talent for dissimulation. Machiavelli's teaching is scandalous even today, when everyone wants to be a prince. Huber's Leviathan was attacked for observe ing that, in war, force and fraud are virtues. The lesson of Bernard de Mandeville's The Fable of the Leaven that prosperity is driven by vice, by greed, sunity and envy. Nietzsche still has the power to shock. It is because he showed that some of the virtues we most admire are sublimations of motives such as cruelty and ressentiment we most strongly condemn. In these writers a forbidden truth is made plain. It is not only that the good life has very little to do with morality. It flourishes usly because of immorality. Moral philosophers have always evaded this truth. Aristotle began the evasion when he presented his doctrine of the mean, which says that the virtues wax and wane together. Courage and prudence, justice and sympathy all are highly developed in the best man. Let us not forget that. Aristotle speaks only of males. But, as even Aristotle must have noticed, virus can be kovala. A rigorous sense of justice can drive out sympathy. Worse, virtue may depend on vire. Anurage often goes with a certain recklessness. Where vice and virtus are concerned, human beings are not all of one piece. Moral philosophy is very largely a branch of fiction. Despite this, a philosopher has yet to write a great novel. The fact should not be surprising. In philosophy the truth about human life is of no interest. Every thought, intention and action you do is all recorded by karma, the good and the bad. The law of karma states that whatever thoughts or energy we put out, we get in return. The law of karma is present and ready to respond. It's a simple cause and effect principle. Good karma is the result of making a positive contribution to the world because you genuinely want to help, not because you are longing for something in return. On the contrary, the negative energy you put out there such as hate, speaking ill of someone, jealousy, greed, guilt and anger you will constantly get more and more of it, thus, bad karma. In the end, you are responsible for your actions and the consequences. It becomes a relentless cycle. You project negativity, attract negative circumstances, feel frustrated with life, and before you know it, you're frapped in an endless loop of bad karma. You didn't know. You would get hurt. You didn't walk in expecting pain. You had no way of seeing the future or preparing your heart for what would unfold. You were just trying. Hoping, believing. You didn't know you would make mistakes. You didn't know you would choose the wrong path, say the wrong thing, hold on too long or let go too early. You were doing the best you could with what you had, with what you knew at the time. You didn't know things wouldn't turn out the way you imagined. You held on to a dream, because dreams are allowed, aren't they? You poured your hope into something that felt real, something that felt like it could last, like it could change you in all the best ways. You didn't know your heart would break. You didn't sign up for that. You only wanted something beautiful. You only wanted something meaningful. Sometimes, we blame ourselves for not knowing better. For not seeing the signs. For loving too hard. For trusting. For falling. But maybe we need to remember this: you can't hold yourself responsible for what your heart couldn't have known. Accept your pain. Before, I used to scold myself whenever I felt sad. I told myself that it is not okay to feel so low, to let tears spill down my cheeks, to be this vulnerable. You see, we've become so accustomed to putting a mask on in front of the world that sometimes we forget to take it off in front of ourselves too. We forget that being honest with ourselves is the biggest gift we could give our hearts. Listening to our pain, to our trauma. Unveiling our scars. Accepting blemishes. Simmering in the sadness. Rather than pushing it away, rather than clumping sadness, pain, and trauma under a tight heading. Things I don't want to speak about, and locking it away in a compartment in our mind. Accept your pain. Embrace it. Let your heart squirm with emotions, both good and bad, and don't brush away the things that make you sad. Listen to them. Understand them. Because they are as much a part of you as everything else is. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel vulnerable and scared and anxious. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're only human after all. You're only human. A confusing maybe is just a slow no. If you're left guessing where you stand, why you're even there, or whether they truly value you, it's time to walk away. Stop playing games where you always end up drained and unsure. Rat continue dost keep you up at night, wrying every word they said, trying to decode mind signals. Lives too short, and your energy is too precious for that kind of chwas. People who want you in their light won't make you boy for clarity. They'll be upfront, content, and honest about how they feed and what they want. You deserve pros, not puzzles. The moment you stop settling for wishy-washy behavior, you regain your power. It might feel hard to let go at first, but trust me, it's 1,000 times better than staying in a loop of uncertainty. Don't be afraid to say no. More clarity and too much to ask for. It's the bare minimum you should expect from anyone who wants a pea in your ute. The right people will meet you halfway with open communication, not cryptic message or empty promises. Protect your peace, close the door on uncertainty, and make room for someone who don't think twice about showing you when they stand.